Hello, welcome to Garibaldi Red for a deadline day stream, which has been frantically prepared as almost as frantic as Forest's deadline day. So we're going to catch up on a lot of news, a lot of deals in the company of our Reds correspondent, Sarah Clapson, for about 10 minutes or so before she goes off to do another Q&A somewhere else. And then we'll stay with me and I'll field a few questions and discuss a few tactics and formations. Sarah, a hectic day. How are you?
Tired, but no, it's all good. Busy finish, I think.
Yes, I would say tired now, a long way to go, still 5 hours for you to get through. While we've got you for another 10 minutes or so, run us through the headline names, the deals that have happened, deals that could happen.
I've lost track already. I think so far we've had 3 today, I think.
Yeah.
Possibly a few more on the way. All decent signings so far. Obviously, the big one that hopefully gets over the line in the coming hours would be Sangare, who Forest have had on their radar since last summer and has been a big target throughout this window. Hopefully that deal gets over the line. It's all looking very promising and encouraging. Obviously, heading in the other direction, it looks like Brennan Johnson's move to Spurs will go ahead, which is sad, I think. But realities of transfer windows and FFP make those kind of decisions difficult and inevitable that clubs have to deal with them. I think we could also see the goalkeeper get done, whose name I am not going to attempt to pronounce until I have absolute clarification on how to say it, because I suspect I'll end up looking very silly. But expecting that one to get done, and then probably, as we've heard in the last few minutes, Origi looks like that one might happen as well. So potentially 3 more. At least 3 more, because we all know that late twists and turns happen, and deadline day tends to do funny things. But if all goes as planned, those 3 should get done before the deadline. And obviously the big departure that looks like happening would be Brennan.
Other departures, I don't know if you mentioned Freuler, but he's gone.
He's gone, yeah.
Expecting anyone else to go?
It's all very quiet on that front at the moment. I haven't heard that there's any others imminent. There's obviously a few players that, when Forest have to name that 25-man squad at the minute, they're quite clearly going to be over that with the players they've got on the book. So there will be some that miss out, and there will be some that end up maybe... The Saudi Arabia window, I know, is open after today. So that's one possible avenue for some. I'm not too sure on other windows. I'll have to check on that, but I think at the minute it's Brennan Johnson's looking like the main one that would happen today. I haven't had any inkling of any others at the moment, but there's obviously a few players that are still unlikely to be part of the plans, at least the likes of John Joe Shelby or Harry Artu, who hasn't been part of the plans for a long time, Emmanuel Dennis. Players like that, if moves crop up in the closing hours of the window, I think Forest would be happy to let some of them go.
Yeah, I guess Emmanuel Dennis and players like that have been linked with Saudi already, haven't they? So it would make sense there. Just in terms of fees paid and things like that and fees received, Brennan Johnson, is it around 45 million? There's a few figures quoted, but it's something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit more than that, I think. What I've heard is about 47.5. So a little bit less than the 50 million that Forest were hoping for and trying to hold out for, but still a lot of money for someone of his age, and the kind of money I think that makes clubs think and have decisions to make. So as sad as it is to see academy players go, and it always is, I think that's a lot of money to have turned down. And Forest have turned down bids already this window. They have rejected offers from Brentford, so they have tried to get as good a deal as they can. as much as nobody ever wants to see him go. And it's not that Forest particularly wanted to sell, but when you factor in FFP and what you can do with that kind of cash, it's a difficult one then to turn down.
And it does allow them to get Sangare, I think you said, as the headline signing. I mean, that's kind of that's the signing that potentially takes Forest to the next level within the Premier League table, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I think he could be a real transformative signing. It completely changes the dynamic in midfield. Midfield was a real problem area last season, trying to find the right combination and the right balance. I think towards the end, Steve Cooper did strike a good combination, but there was still challenges there, and there were still times when Forest were dominated in midfield and struggled to grip and struggled to really get things moving. I think he'll make a real difference with that. Comes in with great pedigree, really exciting addition, good experience, and I think it just helps progress the team and progress the club and move Forest up to the next level. It's something that Steve Cooper talked a lot about yesterday in his pre-match press conference, about wanting to develop and evolve the style of play and evolve the approach. And he wants players that can be flexible in terms of formations and how they take games on. And he was asked whether he thought that he could do that with the players he had at that time, or whether it did kind of rely on signings coming in. And he was quite coy about it, but he certainly gave the impression that to really kick on, it needed big players and new additions to come in. And Forest have certainly done that. They've certainly backed him in the transfer market this window.
Yeah, I mean, the team that's playing now is effectively as good, if not slightly weaker, than the team that finished last season. So they did need to evolve. Certainly, they weren't going to be smashing teams out of sight playing this squad. Just before I let you go, the other one I was going to ask you about, Hudson Odoi. I think he had a year left on his contract. Is it around 5 to 8 million for him? Is that right?
Yeah, roughly that, I think. It's a really good deal, that one. I think he's obviously had his injury problems and had a bit of a stop-start time of it, but for that kind of money, I think it's a decent deal with his potential, his age, and the fact that he knows Steve Cooper. Anybody can get the best out of him and get him going again, it would be Steve Cooper. So I think that's a decent one. If Forest can help unlock his potential, and hopefully he hits the ground running and can really kick on, because I think he's such a talent. He's got bags of quality. He just needs it getting out of him. Hopefully Steve Cooper can do that.
It's been reported as well that Wang Yizhou is going to Norwich on loan, which will be another one off the books. Last one before we let you go. Any worries about, this sounds foolish, having too many players? I'm just wondering how are we going to fit all these players into midfield? Steve Cooper's got a welcome challenge, hasn't he, now?
He really has, and particularly at right back as well. There's certainly plenty of options there. It's better than not having options, but it is a challenge trying to keep everybody happy. As I said, there will be some, I'm sure, that fall outside of that 25-man limit, as there has been for the last couple of windows. There's often players that miss out. I think the experience of last summer and having to integrate so many new signings and having to keep them all happy, having to get players buy into the club, buy into what Forest are trying to do, develop a team spirit, develop a sense of unity. I think that's really going to stand the manager and the dressing room and the Forest as a whole in good stead, because there's that good reference point to look back on and think, well, we did it last year, and not quite as many this summer, but still a lot. But there's players that have been there for a while now, and players that obviously have been there since last year. So it is trying to get that balance, making sure you have strength in depth, making sure you have options, but equally not being so overloaded with players that you end up with some that end up getting unhappy at missing out. But that's the challenge, I guess, of the modern manager.
True. True. Right, Sarah, we're going to let you go. I'll hang around, like I say, so don't disappear, anyone. We'll take some questions. I know you've got lots to do, Sarah, so I'm going to boot you out. Don't be offended. But
I'm not.
In fact, you might have to boot yourself out, actually, because I can't.
I can do that, I think.
I'm sure you can. Don't